people may not understand a lot of the nuance to how to make a great old-fashioned or make a great Manhattan, the history of those drinks, and how they really, really marry well with the experience of a cigar. And by the way, this is not an old-fashioned, this is a bold-fashioned.
This is a bold-fashioned. We'll say this is a bold-fashioned.
This baby has a little bit of heat, man. I love it. I love it. So what do we have in here?
Well, I used for your old-fashioned or bold-fashioned, I used a higher proof bourbon. This is the Bardstown Bourbon Company's Discovery Series, Series 10. It is a blend of different bourbons, ranging from Tennessee to Kentucky to also Georgia. There is up to a 13-year-old bourbon in here. There's a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old. So it's a really nice, bolder blend, and I love what they do. I thought it would work nicely.
And we have some good proof on this.
Some good proof. That's why we're calling it the Bold Fashioned.
The Bold Fashioned.
The Bold Fashioned. Of course, the original Old Fashioned really has its roots in the 1700s because back in the day, they were just, for cocktails, they were really just adding a little bit of sugar, a little bit of bitters, some fruit to a cocktail. So really, as it progressed through the years, we came to a time of prohibition, and some of the spirits that were being created by the moonshiners and
was not very palatable.
Was not the best stuff. So they wanted to add some fruit, some sugar, some elements, some bitters to actually really calm those flavors down so it would be more palatable. Yeah. So that's why they call it the old fashioned. They were looking back to an older style of a cocktail.
Wow.
And so there's so many cocktails that are based on the old fashioned. When you think about the elements sugar, fruit, when you're muddling those elements together, releasing the sugars, allowing it to really marry the bourbon. You can also make it old fashioned with the rye.
You know, obviously, in tasting it, I can taste that it is a fuller expression as far as bourbon, but it's high proof, but it's not super hot necessarily.
Right.
And whatever heat it has, like you said, is really being offset by the bitters, the muddled fruit, and so forth. So it's very, very fragrant.
Nice
very
elements that
fruit
release.
forward, not super sweet, but it's pairing very well with the Cohiba Serie M. And it's kind of, you talk about prohibition. That era was sort of some of our inspiration for what the Cohiba Serie M looks and feels like. Of course, Serie M stands for Miami.
Right.
It's a special release that we make in Miami on Calle Ocho, Little Havana, with El Titan de Bronze, a classic family-owned, Cuban heritage cigar factory. Very small batch. We do 50,000 cigars a year. But when we approached this, we wanted it to be something that paid homage to some of the Miami vibe, but we didn't want it to sort of be New Miami. Not that anything's wrong with New Miami, but we didn't want it to feel like sort of the club and nightlife feel that Miami has sort of a reputation for now. So we really wanted to throw back to some of the old Fisher Island, think Great Gatsby, think Roaring Twenties, think that sort of Prohibition era. So that's why the packaging sort of looks has that feel, the use of the hunter green, the gold elements, and it's just sort of a throwback classic feel. So I think it's appropriate that we're enjoying this with the classic cocktail.
It is. This is the perfect pairing, and also we're in Manhattan, and when we look toward the history of Manhattan, the original Manhattan was actually invented here. The late 1800s, the Manhattan was invented here. I wanted to do something for this cocktail to really showcase New York.
So you're going to make a Manhattan.
That's right. I'm going to make a Manhattan. We're going to have two bold cocktails with the Serie M. This is, as you'll read on the bottle, New York City's oldest whiskey distillery. New York City's oldest whiskey distillery, post-Prohibition. It's only a little over a decade old because bringing these distilleries back to places
was no easy task.
Was no easy task, right? So there are rye whiskeys, of course, wonderful rye whiskeys from Kentucky, from Tennessee, all over. And when you get into different types of whiskeys, elements, on New York whiskeys, I get some of the minerality from the water source here, which they often say the pizza, the bagels, and all something special. It truly is. When you look toward other places, Texas, California, the bourbons, the ryes, they all taste unique because of those water sources. So this is the Manhattan.
Nice.
Cheers. That is beautiful. And those elements, when we think about generations, as you mentioned, going back to what cigars would have been like back then, as cigars are growing, right? So are cocktails, so are spirits. We had pre-Prohibition, 5,000 distilleries in this country.
Wow.
5,000. It took us up until 2001 to have 100 distilleries that have come back. So,
Are you serious? Wow.
yeah.
And you talk about this era, the early 20th century in America. Tobacco was a major commodity in the landscape of America at the time, and cigars were the most prominent, I guess, use of tobacco, along with pipe tobacco. I mean, it was some form of premium cigars. So this is great that we're talking about these classic
Pairing some classic
spirits.
flavors together.
A lot of synergies in the histories, man. Absolutely.
And when you do these pairings, it's like a journey through time. For me, it's a journey through time, knowing that someone would have had this not only yesterday or 20 years ago, but 100 years ago, a similar pairing. Cheers.
Salud, brother.
Salud.